Okay.
We're recording. So, hello everyone. I'm Matt. I'm your community council president for the Spenard Community Council, and we're calling our meeting to order for April 1st. Welcome to the Spenard Community Council. I'm honored to be your president this year. We follow Robert's Rules of Order, which we're not perfect at it. But there's three main goals of Robert's Rules of Order, and that is to conduct the business of the meeting, to make sure that the majority rules and to respect the minority and preserve their rights. So we're going to look at doing that. In the back of the room, we have a lot of baked confections. We have Swedish fish imported directly from Sweden.
Wow.
And we have fresh made coffee. It is Hawaii blend today. Yeah, so please help yourself. You will not be interrupting this meeting if you get up and go feed yourself. We do collect voluntary dues annually. You do not have to pay dues. It does not affect your ability to vote. But it's $5. It pays for the confectionaries, and it also puts money in our coffers. We are proudly the wealthiest community council. Yeah. Well, your voting requirements. Oh, don't tell anybody I have this room. Voting requirements. To vote, you have to be at one meeting, and if you have in the past calendar year, if you've done that, then you're eligible to vote. The way we track that is with our secretary, Jed, back there. So if you haven't visited Jed, do that. So I have updates on, if I can figure out how to work my phone. Sure. So updates, things that came in my email. The best way to stay informed is we put all of this information on the Spenard Community Council website. We usually update it twice a month before the meetings. So you can just Google Spenard Community Council. It comes up right up front, and all these items are there. So 1306 Chukash Way, the owner of this dangerous fire damaged property has started the cleanup, and the building will be demolished this month. The bylaws committee, Jason Lessard has volunteered to lead the committee to rewrite our bylaws. This is not a radical rewrite. We're not changing anything. All we're doing is bringing it in line with the way that we handle our money now that we now that our money falls under the tax ID of the Federation of Community Councils. We're just going to bring it up, and we'll probably do that in September. We'll have the one meeting. We'll review the changes. If you want to be on that committee, contact Jason Lessard. I talked to several people on the Fish Creek Trail Committee. They said the plan is moving forward. AMATS is having an open house for the Minnesota IL corridor Tuesday, April 14th. I will be out of town. Please, someone go to that. This is the corridor that goes high speed through the middle of Spenard and divides our community and takes the lives of many of our residents. So it's going to be at the Lusac Library Learning Commons on the first floor from 5:30 to 7. We went to the meeting for the Fifth Avenue fence, like our lovely cheese grater fence on Minnesota. Fifth Avenue is getting one downtown. We shook our fists and pointed at their chest. They said they would continue to build the wall. Election day is April 7th. Don't forget to vote. Spenard's second Saturday announced that they're starting their second Saturdays up again. So support businesses in Spenard that participate. And Spo Lotus has applied for a liquor license, which is weird because last time I was there, they had liquor. So yay. The call for volunteers. Somebody last month said that they wanted to help rebuild the guide on it, and I did not write down her name. Mara. I'm going to type Mara right here. And we'll get your contact information afterwards. Okay. Yeah, so the guide on right there, put it out.
I didn't know what that meant.
Oh.
Never heard the words. Okay, I learned something every day.
So now we're going to begin the meeting. First, we need to approve the agenda. And the minutes for our February meeting, we have a first.
Move to approve.
Move to approve and a second. And a second, that's Peggy and Irene for Jed. Unanimously, anyone oppose? Oh, good, they're approved. All right. So now we're going to do community announcements. For community announcements, we're going to introduce first out of the gate. Felix, this is his last community council meeting with us because he is being term limited out. So this is your moment.
Thank you. And I will not be giving a report because I understand that some member probably is going to be doing that. So this is the start of what I was telling Jason is a farewell tour. So it has been truly a pleasure and an honor to represent Midtown. And I took the Spenard after the 2020 decennial census, and we redrew the maps. I got a chunk. But I did enjoy, even before then, coming to a few of y'all's meetings and talking about different issues. This is honestly one of my favorite community council meetings, but don't tell the others I said that. So I got elected in 2017, and when I think back on it, I was 27 years old when I got elected, quite a younger individual. And I did not know the hurricane that would yeah, that was funny when I first got elected, but has definitely have served through some very interesting times. I like to think that I'm leaving the city in a better place than I found it. Really trying to do the best I could when it came to housing and homelessness, really leaving the legislative branch as an institution in a stronger place so that future assembly members and could benefit from that. Yeah, it's just really been a pleasure. This is going to be the last meeting with you all. And thank you so much. It's been a journey.
And Felix, just because you're leaving, it's still coming, happy long. So this is community announcements. During that time, you can think about what community announcements that you have. We'll just go around the room real quick. If anybody wants to raise their hand. We have one right here. Shauna, our secretary. No, treasurer.
The Michael.
Yeah.
So every year we went this year doing it, but I host the Spenard again neighborhood cleanup. I brought a couple of flyers in, they have a QR code on them, and what they really like is I had a lot of participation from the neighborhood last year, which is the point. But we need y'all to tell us where to come clean up. Because people will come to us and be like, where should we go? And I'm like, I don't know. So again, the QR code on there to give me a location. So if you know something that's a problem or our office is right at the corner of Lois and Benson, so we're sort of leaving from there, but we provide dumpsters for that day. I'll talk about it again next month as well, but just I'd love to know that. Show up. Yeah.
Is there anything that you won't accept, like your point of?
Yeah. So on the flyer, we do have a vast list. What we don't want is people bringing their like yard stuff to us. Like we're not doing that so you can bring your leaves, right? We want you to go and clean up the neighborhood and we'll take your garbage. And then in addition to that, just batteries, and somebody tried bringing me a water heater last year. Like if you find a couch on the side of the road, we'll take it back. But try not to bring beds that are in your neighbors. You know what I mean? So yeah, but there's a little thank you.
All right, thank you.
Railroad ties. They won't take railroad ties. I have railroad ties. Anyone needs railroad ties?
Yeah, okay.
Any other community announcements going around the room? We have two. This guy first.
I got a short one.
Okay.
So the planning department is going to have an open house at the ZJ Lusac Library on April 14th, same time as the Minnesota IL corridor. Just a quick informational thing if you want to learn about projects, will be in the atrium, so right when you walk in. I'll have some boards up if anyone has any questions or wants to know more about what we did or what we have up.
25 mile an hour speed. And Michelle?
Yeah, Michelle, and if you're interested in parks around town like I am, the Muni is updating the Goose Lake Master Park Plan, and it's live. Well, there's a survey online, so you can just Google it, go to the Muni's website. I did it today, and just what you like to do in the park and what you'd like to see there. And they're supposed to be having I think a rough draft this fall, and there's supposed to be some kind of event coming up, but it says TBD, so I don't know what that's in. But the survey's out.
Yeah. So we did all those things. We are on to number 4. This is Lieutenant Brian.
It's right, it's a little bit smaller, I mean, bigger, but I got.
It's sunshiny. Yeah, it is sunshiny. What was it, was pulling up and I said to myself, wow, here and it's sunny. Right, it's actually sun, I'm not pulling up in the dark, so it's good to see everybody here. Couple things I want to just kind of bring up is, we are still moving forward with our Pine Lake parking process. Everybody doesn't know, Pine Lake was approved through the assembly. That is, just been approved actually today by the state of Alaska, so it's a whole process, so the assembly approves the new statutes, it goes to the state of Alaska. They have to upload it to their court system, once it gets uploaded to the court system and we can see it, then we can then go ahead and enforce it. We're gonna get that into our new, technology system called Hexagon, and then we'll be out there doing some enforcement. We are going to be having a designated foot patrol pretty much in the downtown area for the foreseeable future. We are discussing whether or not we're going to expand that capacity to other areas of the city. And the chief is taking into consideration sort of some of the other areas that we think foot patrol will be effective. So more to follow on that as we develop that. But we're talking months of foot patrol in the future. So that's a great thing. And our focus will be especially for our specifically Title 8 enforcement. So the new nuisance crimes that are on the docket for enforcement. We're doing extensive work still in the outreach community, doing some things with the shelters. We have a true market capacity now for substance use disorders that are active in working with our homeless outreach team. So we're doing still doing all that. There's just a lot of stuff going on for the Acres Police Department right now. We've made a massive transition just this week on our technology. So all the systems that we use that were legacy, so how we dispatch officers, how officers write reports, how they receive information from dispatch, how dispatch runs, all of those programs and processes and software were just very old. And we just recently we've been working with a vendor called Hexagon for quite a while to get those things up and running. And we went live on that this week. So it's it's been very much of a process for us. It built up and very much needed. So we're doing that right now. It's been a little bit of a growing pain for the officers, but it's a great technology advancement to us. It's gonna hopefully increase our efficiency on the street, our ability to get our work done quicker when we're writing reports and things like that. So we're doing that throughout the next couple of months as we roll things out. So it's an exciting time for us. So we're looking forward to the spring. My suggestion for everyone is spring starts at fall and you start seeing trash and some of those things. We get a lot of reports of camps because people say, oh, there's a tent up and that's fine. It's good, that's just trash, maybe from the previous fall that got covered up. Just go ahead and let Healthy Spaces know. We've doubled their capacity, and so they have more capacity to go out and clean these areas up quickly. We like to address them as quickly as we can. So once you report them, we discuss them immediately. Every week we have a meeting where we discuss camp locations and trash that needs to be cleaned up, and then we deconflict that with enforcement operations so that we can be real efficient. So efficiency of government is a big deal to us, so that we can get the resources to where they need to go, and then get out there so that you guys can enjoy those spaces as we keep them clean, keep them in a public use environment. So I think get some feedback from you about traffic, some tinted windows. We were talking about tinted windows. So tinted windows. If you have tint on your windows, understand that what the law says is you have to have 70% penetration through your window. So when you put a tint screen on your window, so your front window, so as you're driving, your two windows on the side, 70% of light has to be able to penetrate through those windows. On the back, 40% light has to penetrate. But we have a little bit measure meters that we put on there where you can be, you get a citation and you exceed that capacity, and it's a correctable citation. What that means is that as long as you within 30 days remove the tint or replace it with something that's legal, then there's no fine or any kind of points associated with it. And we don't have, generally speaking, points aren't associated with equipment violations. What's the other? Oh, speeding. I don't know, so don't speed. If it's 25 miles an hour, do 25 miles an hour, 65, do 65, if it's 60, do 60. We're pretty, there's some discretion there used, right? We want to keep traffic flowing. So we want to make sure that people, when you pass somebody, if you exceed the speed limit and it's reasonable, that's okay, right? Like, if I get up to 67, 68 mile an hour to pass somebody and then go back 65, that's reasonable, because if you didn't, then nobody would pass anybody, everybody would speed 55 miles an hour. So just keep it within reason as you're making a pass, and then get yourself down to the speed limit as soon as reasonable. We have lane changes. So if you're making lane changes, when you're making a lane change, the easiest thing to do to remember is, as you make a left or right hand turn, like if you're turning from one street onto the next, you want to occupy the most immediate lane of travel that you're currently in. So if you're in the right lane, you're making a right hand turn, you want to stay in that right lane so that it's a sharper turn. You don't want to go out into the roadway and then occupy that left hand lane as you make that turn. Same on the left hand side as well. So just kind of keep that nice and tight and make sure you make that turn. The law says within 100 feet, so as you're driving down the road, once you've made your turn or you've indicated with a signal, you want to give yourself about 100 feet and then make that change. It's just safe. We're not, I hope we're not to the point now where we're scrutinizing that too great, right? I mean, we're going to use reasonableness. If you're making a lane change and it's safe and you use your signal, right, you're going to be left alone. Nobody's going to force you over that. So, I think that was all that we had on the list. Does anybody have any questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
I've been seeing a lot of people running red lights, and the roads are pretty dry right now, except for the side streets. That's not where it's happening. It's like, I went out on Friday and I saw 3 people go through a red light right up here at Northwood, and then the next block, someone ran a red light, and then I went on Aaron, I came down Spenard, and someone ran a red light. It's just like, there's no excuse for the road conditions. It was clear. It was 10 o'clock in the morning, so there was light. There was no reason for that. But if I had pulled out when I had the light, I would have been. And we saw a really bad accident on Blue Stack and Northern Lights, and someone ran through the red light. It's really serious right now.
Yeah. So red light. So traffic signals are not suggestions, right? They're the law. So we need to make sure we're adhering to them. One of the things that we have the capacity to do is it's after the fact, right? So if somebody does cause a crash, right? So this is after the fact, right? We do have the ability to access traffic camera video and then determine, who, basically determine the course of actions of the events, and then we can cite accordingly, right? So sometimes people say, well, who's at fault? What's at fault? Fault. Everybody wants to fault because that's the language that insurance companies use. We don't determine fault as police officers. We just don't do that. We do an investigation and we look into if a violation has occurred. If a violation has occurred, we issue that violation, and that's all we do. So if somebody runs a red light that causes an accident, we issue violations or we charge a crime. Whatever that needs to be done, we do that. Or we can use that traffic cam footage to make a determination. It's a very useful tool for us in that kind of capacity. So we do that. Now, to kind of encourage people not to run red lights is kind of the goal, right? And there comes a greater debate on whether we don't use traffic cameras or ticketing systems with camera systems, and like they do in some of the lower 48 states. So we're not putting cameras up so that when you run a red light, it takes a picture of you and it gives you an automatic ticket. We just don't have that capacity here, nor I don't think there's a real appetite for this in this community. So what we have to rely on our officers that are in the area and available to do the work and see the citation. Problem is that we can't it's not like a crime. You can't say, I saw that person remember life, because we don't have any way to really prove that they did. And we wouldn't go back and do the research to determine that they did or not, just issue a citation. It would be for something else. So by all means, if somebody's driving recklessly, call them in and call 311 and say it's a person because of red light violation.
is usually to be in conjunction with other behaviors. If you see those, call it in, we call it a ready ride report. You just call it in and say, hey, I saw this person, they're driving a little erratic, they went through a red light, here's the license plate, here's what the car looks like, this is the direction of travel. And then you could be done. If we have an officer in the area, we'll send that officer over to try to investigate that or issue a DUI, could be indications of other criminal activity. So that's important to do those things. Yeah.
Well, two things. In Hartford, it used to be that a citizen could, sign a moral complaint, go to court. They were willing to do that. Not everybody's willing to do that. Is that not the case anymore?
Or what?
For like, if she saw the red light runner, she had a plate, she could identify the driver. If she's willing to go to court, not doing that anymore.
If it was in regards to a crime, absolutely. I mean, but that would be an investigation. There's nothing assigned. You might talk about that person's arrest warrant. That would be applicable in a violation that we can or cannot prove.
I used to be a dispatcher, and, you know, we told people that they could do that, but most people don't wanna do that.
Yeah, no, we
It's
have
it's on
that
them
now.
too.
Yeah.
And my other question was, are you gonna be doing bike patrols on the trails this summer?
Yeah, we are. So our SROs will be doing some, just like always, we'll have bike patrol officers, the school resource officers. We'll be out there doing some work. We'll have a field room this year. They'll be out there doing that work after school's out. Usually it's about 2 weeks after school is out. The officers usually are with the schools, do that closing transition, right? Kids go, but there's still work to be done. So after that,
This just came up and then we'll let you know. For the bike on the trails, all those bikes, those renting bikes that are not able to be driven on the trails. So we have tourists being shipped in and we're riding 75, 80 pound e-bikes, 35 miles an hour on the trails, they're gonna kill you.
Yes.
so that would be a good, so kind of complete type question to send up through the formal thing on the UAPD website. That would probably be a really good question to come through. I don't even know if that would be a police, that would be more like a compliance issue, a business compliance issue. I don't know which department that would push you to. But you send me an email, just send me an email with the name of the and some of the data, and I'll try to find the right entity looking. So that's not good.
And, Joe, last person, our immediate past president, and then we got this nice to go.
The property at the corner of Chugach Way and Spenard, are there any updates?
Is that the Quonset
Yes.
property? Yeah. So we are actually moving ahead. I don't have a ton of updates for you on that. They're working through whether or not the owner is going to be able to remove all the vehicles off the property in a timely manner, or the city is gonna do it. Sometimes the city will step in and take ownership of that process, and then we'll back charge the property owner. Because if they can't do it in a manner that would be reasonable time frame. So we are moving forward on that. If you see individuals that are going in and on that property, we call 311 and report that should be going on that property. I believe we demoed the other one that was off of East 34th. That's going to be demoed. So went to auction last 2 weeks ago. So we're working on a lot of properties. We've assisted with about 27 build-ups in the last probably 6 months. And those are gonna move pretty quickly as summer comes up, when people are illegally occupying those houses. So.
All right, and look, can I ask one? We're gonna have to move on, he's at his time. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, all right, thanks, folks. So, the next person on the list is Kelly Lessons. Did Kelly make it?
She's online.
Online. All right, we'll turn our attention to the screen there. Can you make Kelly begin for me?
All right. Hi guys, can you hear me okay? I'm on my phone in the car in a perfect spot. So yes, good. Okay, great. Well, happy whatever month this is, April. I don't have everything that I would normally have in front of me, but I had some time to make some notes. So if I go a little backwards and forwards in time, just bear with me. I did want to flag and be looking forward that we do have, because of school snow days, we have 2 makeup days on the calendar. One of them is this month, it's April 17th. It was not a school day, now it will be a school day. And same with May 21st, which I believe is Thursday. It was going to be the first day of summer vacation, but it is now the last day of school. So make sure families have that information planned for their kids' lives. Also, in the looking ahead, just so you guys understand what's coming down the pipeline, our next board meeting will be Monday, April 6th. Normally we meet on Tuesdays, but Tuesday's election day, so we meet on Monday the 6th. And then just looking a little farther, we are a 7-member board. 2 of the members are reaching the end of three-year terms, so they've been here for almost 9 years. And we have there will be 2 new board members elected who will then be sworn in at our first meeting in May. From my standpoint here, when they gavel in, we will reorganize ourselves as a body and redistribute community councils and schools. This might be my last Spenard Community Council meeting, or we might maintain the current ones until July. I'm not quite sure. So I'll either say goodbye or I'll say see you next time. In any event, those are some nuts and bolts. It's been a little while and there's been a lot happening since I was last with you guys. At the end of February, we passed a balanced budget that's rooted in projected enrollment for next year and based in current state statute with the state funding. And so to close what amounted to a $90 million deficit, we spent our fund balance down to a very unsustainable level, down to 5% again, which is like gives us just a few $1,000,000 in case there's an emergency. We reduced administration significantly. We focused reductions on areas outside of the classroom at all costs. This, however, was not enough to close the $90 million gap. And so cuts included the loss. Well, originally about 25 nurses were proposed to be cut. We were able to claw 3/4 of those back. Something called the middle school model was cut, and that's where our middle school students have 7 periods in a day. They will now have 6 periods next year, which means fewer electives and opportunities for career technical education or language classes. So fewer choices, and then an increase of class sizes K through 12 through what we call pupil teacher ratio. Now, one of the bright spots in the budget, if you can call it that, is that the board passed an amendment directing the administration to spend every penny of Proposition 9, which is this one-time operational levy. So if community members in the municipality pass Proposition 9, that $11.8 million will 100% go to reducing the projected increase in class sizes. So it would essentially cut in half the growth that we are expected to see. It would save about 80 teacher positions and about 3.5 kindergarten paraprofessional positions. So those would be distributed K through 12. And would go a long way towards mitigating some of the harm of that balanced budget. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that we closed 3 schools as part of that process. Through those school closures, we reallocated those funds to retaining and restoring middle school and high school sports for next year, a number of those nurses, and 16 middle school teachers. So there's a lot there. I will say at a recent finance committee meeting we had last week, we had a brief review from the administration on some possible pieces of legislation that may be moving. I'm not really sure what. One of them is House Bill 374. It has proposed a $630 per pupil increase to the base student allocation. That would net Anchorage School District just over $44 million. But there's a long time between the passage. We don't know how how things will shake out in Juneau, especially with events in Iran. So we'll be watching that bill. There is an omnibus bill, Senate Bill 377, which proposes a lot of changes at the state level, but doesn't look like it would fundamentally um, move the needle for Anchorage School District funding a lot. And I don't know what's going to happen. It had one hearing, but we'll see what happens. It did have some correspondence school pieces, but I think it would probably generate a lot of additional administrative work on the ASD end of things. At our next board meeting on Monday the 6th, I talked about the middle school model. One of the things the board approved a few years ago when we still had the middle school model was that middle school students would no longer be able to receive a PE waiver. So although high school students, if you participate in an ASA, which is Alaska School Activities Association, sanctioned sport, so whether that's wrestling or track and field or basketball, whatever, if you participate in at the high school level in one of these sports, you can get some PE credit for what you need as a high school student to graduate for each of the sports that you do. We did away with that for middle school students a couple of years ago in a policy revision, but now with the elimination of the middle school model, at our next board meeting in April 6th, it'll be a non-action item. There's a proposal to revise that policy. It's Board Policy 5040 to allow middle school PE waivers to be reinstated. So that is something that we're going to be talking about at the next meeting and the one thereafter in mid-April. And at those April meetings, we are also going to be talking about, actually it'll be on the Monday, the 6th agenda, because we settled with the Anchorage Education Association with a new 3-year contract earlier this year, in early January. We are adding 3 days to the school calendar each year, so we have to adjust each of the school calendars for the next few years. And so those adjustments are part of this upcoming meeting. And my understanding, and again, I apologize for not having all of my notes with me, is that those dates would shift the start of the school year up by a couple of days. So I don't have the specifics in front of me, but that will all be publicly posted. Actually, it was publicly posted at our last meeting as a non-action item, but it'll be on our agenda as an action item sometime on maybe Friday. So that is where I will pause. So again, Proposition 9, 100% of that, if voters pass it, will go towards classroom teachers. And then the Anchorage School District has put together Proposition 1, which is our annual school bond. There are more than 20 high priority sites, schools, and the student nutrition facility that are on the bond. And I will pause there because I'm probably getting close to my time. And about turning ballot in before Tuesday.
Okay. Well, then, thank you very much. We do have questions. Phil, would you like to ask your question first?
So when I sit back and think, I can remember when Alaska Schools Anchorage was 48 instead of 49 out of 50 in fourth grade reading. And the one that was 49 was Mississippi, which is one of the poorest states. And I wondered why we got displaced. And it's because Mississippi decided to actually teach their kids to learn. And they've gone up to where they're in the top 10%, I believe. And they're doing it with a significant amount of less money than we are. And it seems to me that maybe you should look at Mississippi and see how they got their kids that high and they moved up the ladder so far, because you keep asking for more and more and more money and we don't see any improvement in the status. I mean, we haven't even moved back up to 48 yet. And when we sit back, our school superintendent makes more money than the mayor. He makes more money than the governor. How come? He can't be that smart because we're 49 out of 50 in reading.
Okay, so thanks for pointing out the Mississippi, they call it the Mississippi Miracle. One of the things that I'm really proud to have done for Anchorage, and that's not the state as a whole, is that we have rolled out through the Alaska Reads Act. So we are a couple of years into it, new grades K through 5 reading curriculum. And one of the things we're going to be talking about at our upcoming at our upcoming board meeting is K through 2 reading growth this year. And one of the things that I do know, because I was just looking at some of our numbers, is that there was an 18% increase among our kindergartners attaining benchmark status between their fall and their winter assessment on something called the M class. It's this universal reading screener. And so our students, quite frankly, come to school not always prepared. And so it's really encouraging to see tremendous gains at that kindergarten level for our youngest readers. One of the things the Mississippi model has done over a multi-year period is fund something people called instructional coaches at the state level. And they've also really dug deep and done some really great work providing preschool and ensuring that preschool entities are accredited and have really high standards. And one of the things that I'm aware of that in Anchorage, we have a shortage of, I think, 8,000 pre-K spots. We need pre-K and daycare desperately so that more of our students come into the school system ready to learn. So, boy, if we could get our class sizes down to where what we call the evidence-based model, which is like 15 students in a classroom rather than 25, 26, 27, 28, I think we'd make some great strides. So folks are looking at places where great policy has been implemented, and it'd be nice if the Alaska Reads Act was actually funded. Thanks.
Kelly, we have time for a couple more questions.
Sure.
We have a question from Sarah.
Yes, thanks. My question's about the school closures, so I don't necessarily want to rehash all the things. My concern is, none of those school closures were in Spenard, but we do have many neighborhood schools in our council. And it seems like a very fast process that wasn't super transparent. And my concern is, how do we make it so that doesn't happen here in Spenard? I'm living across the street from an elementary school. And I think they do good work. How do we support our schools in our community so we can be part of that process moving forward?
Thank you. I don't know that I can fundamentally give you an answer to the how can I make it not happen in Spenard. That's a pretty detailed question. And barring earthquakes or other disasters, I don't foresee other schools closing for next school year. It was a process that the board engaged in a right sizing process in the fall, and in early February, we began the day the budget was released. This was like round about Friday, February 3rd or so. That's when people started seeing the impact of next year's budget reductions. What happens when you reduce 10% of ASD staff, when you cut all middle and high school sports, when you cut just all of these opportunities for students, when you cut a third of your nurses from your schools. The board began to receive a significant amount of community input. And there was a special meeting that was called and properly noticed for February 9th, is what my working memory stands. And a resolution was adopted at that meeting that directed the administration to lean on previous research, but also look for new efficiencies. And that by essentially within a week's span, the administration came back slightly before that week period and recommended once again closing Fire Lake and Lake Otis elementaries, but also under the Find New Efficiencies component of that resolution, identified Campbell STEM Elementary School because of the aggregate work the school needs, given a $1.5 billion deficit backlog in school maintenance district-wide. And the fact that $2.2 million of fungible school bond debt reimbursement dollars had been attached to that school. And so the board directed the administration to prepare a second set of recommendations. The administration prepared those recommendations, and then the board ultimately voted on those recommendations at the end of a month in a special meeting when we adopted the budget. And that's when we swept those recommendations into sort of that budget balancing plan. So that's more of the rehashing of what happened. I think that we as a community, the remarkable thing is that a majority of people in the community agree that right sizing needs to happen. We need to have a footprint that aligns with declining enrollment levels. No community council that I've ever been a part of has ever, raised their hands and said, I have a great school in my community council that I think you should close to help the district be more efficient. So I do suspect that with 2 new board members, whoever they will be, they will have priorities and values, and we will have conversations about whatever a better process needs to be. I don't think anybody liked the process that we went through. I mean, I will tell you, right sizing is not fun as a board member. I didn't run for this board to watch, elementary students cry. But the decisions were made to preserve opportunities for students at a district level. And that's a hard thing to do. But if we can come together as a revised board, as a new body with a new concept of a future process, that would be a good thing. And if we can involve community councils in that, I think that would be even better. So I don't have a great answer for you, but I really appreciate the question. And I will share that, elementary schools have been the focus of this. We have secondary schools that are massively underutilized or very, very small here in the Anchorage Bowl and in the Chugach-Eagle River area. And what happens at a high school level when you have a very small high school is that you have, or even a small middle school, you do not have very many teachers, right? If one teacher teaches 5 classes in a day, then all of a sudden, when you cut one teacher, you cut those 5 classes. When you cut 3 teachers, you cut 15 classes. And so I believe that some of our smallest secondary schools, with the increased class sizes we're going to be seeing and fewer staff on hand because of our ratios, they're really going to struggle to offer advanced classes in like math, right? Like, or remedial, like anything but a grade level graduation requirement is going to become a luxury. I think that we're going to have some schools struggle to offer graduation requirements with this budget without additional help. So that's the reality. So that's why I think that secondary schools also need to have a realistic, pragmatic, really thoughtful process for the district we want to have and the opportunities we want to bring to students as they move forward. I want our students to have, if you want to take calculus and become an engineer and, go and if you need help getting on grade level, I want you to have that too. And right now, I don't see those two disparate, I don't see the spread of opportunities being like, we just can't offer them under the austere budget that we currently have when we remain spread too thin. That's a long answer to your question.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. We are up against our time right now, so we're going to move on, but thank you very much, Kelly.
All right, thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have Lex with the airport report.
If you don't know me, my name is Lex Dillerton. I am on the PR for the Anchorage International Airport. your local airport. I'm gonna go over some updates, but we do have Jennifer Pepin, who is our engineering and environmental manager, who's gonna go over some construction and development updates we have for summer 2026. I'm gonna go through our community updates really quick, and then she'll share the screen and show you some of kind of our robust constructions that you're gonna have. The biggest thing is we have a master plan update that is now complete. And so if you don't know what the master plan is, it is a long-term framework that basically addresses the growth we're gonna see at the airport and kind of how we can accommodate and adapt that growth over time. And so some of the different things that plan is looking at specifically is our airfield. It could be cargo development, terminal facilities, landside improvements, and so, as we see more people coming there, what type of facility we need, what accommodations we need to make. And so our team's been working on that for a couple of years, the project just finished. And so now it's out posted on our website, so if you're interested in seeing the new master plan, kind of, what we expect to see in the future of Anchorage, or Anchorage International Airport, it'd be good to go check out. The next thing is we have aviation coming up, Aviation Day, and so that's held by Alaska Airlines. And so this is the second annual Alaska Airlines Aviation Day that they're holding. And they hold this in their hangar, but it's a great opportunity for kids to come and learn about all different types of career opportunities in aviation. This is where kids will get to hang out with pilots, flight attendants, and go on a big 747 airplane and check out all the different things in the plane. And so if you have any kids or any kids that are aged 11 to 20 and are interested in aviation, please sign them up. It'd be a good opportunity. It's a free event, and so it'd be fun, for the kids to go and just see if that's something they want to do in the future. And so we have the link at the bottom. And if you know any schools or nonprofits as well, you can also go on and sign them up as well. Yeah. And then there's some kind of parking restrictions, so if you are interested, just make sure you're mindful of that. The next big thing is we have our Lakewood user group meeting coming up, and so this is more so if you maybe live here in Lakewood, or if you own a general aviation airplane, that might be something you're interested in. That meeting is gonna be in mid-May, so I don't have the dates yet, but as soon as we get them, I'll make sure to send them out to everyone, with the community councils. The next other thing is, we have our honor flights coming up, and so every fall and spring, we kind of team up with Alaska Airlines, as well as Last Frontier Honor Flight, and we'll send a couple dozen veterans to Washington DC, where they can go and see all the memorials. And so it's a good time to celebrate and honor the veterans who have served. And so that's a big thing that we do every year, and we're always excited to do it. So if you're interested in attending, they're going to be taking off on April 21st. And they're going to be returning on April 25th at the plane is at 2 p.m. But if you want to come ahead of time, 1:30 is a good time to get there. But yeah, just to recognize the veterans. The next thing is our Purple 15 noise study. This is something that we've been working on for over a year. It's about halfway done. And if you are interested in land noise compatibility around the airport or noise around the airport, this is one of the meetings you're going to want to attend, because this is kind of looks at some of the mitigation that would be allowed if you are in houses that are around the airport and impacted. And the how will say, so if you want to learn more, want to put input, the best place to go is anc115noisestudy.com. The last thing is parking updates. As we're getting into our peak season, summer, we are likely going to be reaching capacity in a lot of our parking lots. So that means come early, try to find parking early, give yourself a little bit of extra time, check your flight status before you come. And then you can also, always be dropped off at the airport, or we also recommend private parking options like the public parking or Alaska parking. Yeah. Pretty sure it's called Alaska Airport Workdays, and Diamond Airport. Work. We'll take a bus. There's a lot of other options. There's a one terminal, lots of parking lots to park in. But just a reminder to, just give yourself a little extra time, just in case you don't want anybody rushing and missing a flight or, running into any issues. But yeah, those are the biggest things that come up there. April, and some of those things are in May, but we want to give people a heads up before it happens, especially since deviation day is on May 1st. Do you guys have any questions, or do you want me to go to Jennifer first?
Well, we got about 4 minutes, so Jennifer wants to talk. We're gonna stay on schedule.
Yeah, Jennifer, you want to go over some of the construction updates?
Yeah, I'd love to. I can go ahead and share my screen. There we go. Sure. Just really quickly, we have, hey, let's go ahead and, okay. So we have quite a bit of a robust construction season this year. A couple of things to point out. Obviously, you can see all of the work happening on ANC proper. We also have a couple of projects that are happening over on Lake Hood. So this is the orange is a 2-year project. So this year we'll be starting with the work up here to the north and then finish up down here to the south next year. The with regards to parking number 6 here, this is the park ride and fly lot. We're actually going to be expanding that and adding parking to that this towards the middle to end of summer is when that project is going to happen. And then we're also going to be repaving our entrances and exits to the parking lots, the parking garage and the long-term and employee parking. So those are some things that are going to be happening. So as Lex said, if you're coming to the airport and you're flying out, come early. Make sure give yourself enough time. Those are some things. So moving forward out onto the airfield, we are in our 2nd year of the taxiway Echo and Mike project, and that's this yellow area here. And that's actually our biggest project that we have going on right now. We're going to be redoing that taxi lane. And then also, obviously, taxiway Romeo here, the red one, that's finishing up from last year. It looks pretty massive as we head south, but that's just for some electrical work that has to happen. So we're excited to have that work done. And then if you look over here, this orange over at the very north end, at the end of Taxiway Romeo, we call this Taxiway Quebec, we're having to do a reconstruction down there. Our green lines around the terminals is our 2nd year of our terminal water main work. We're lining that to give it some more life. And then again, the blue ones, we're doing some concrete rehab, concrete repairs for some of our hard stands and parking spaces around the north terminal and over here in our cargo spots. So that's, and then the big one over here, taxiway Kilo Tug Road. We're going to be redoing our tug road to help facilitate getting cargo and goods around the airport. So that's it. Is there any questions?
Look like we got one question.
Okay.
That's about all we have time for anyway, so Jason?
Great, yeah, I think I saw that ground was broke on the cold storage facility. Finally, after a number of years, what's the updated timeline on completion of that?
So they did do groundbreaking activity. So they are just starting to put in a carbon filter at the boundary of their property. And we're looking to see more information from them with their building permit, hopefully in the next month. And I see them doing some work this summer. Is what they have told us what they're planning on doing. So
thank you.
I believe that they'll be constructed out by next summer.
Okay, thank you very much for your multimedia high-tech report. That was pretty sweet. I'm glad you pulled that off.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have
Anna Brawley with an Anchorage Assembly report. She's been doing heavy lifting for us, as the Spenard Community Council. This is her second time here in 3 months. You get a break after this, I promise.
Sounds good. Hey, everybody, Anna Brawley on the Assembly, representing part of your community council area, West Anchorage. I just have a couple updates today, and then I'm happy to take questions. I know you guys are moving along. First, on the election, I will remind folks that we're in the middle of our municipal election. Ballots are due back by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, April 7th. And then I will also say there's been a little bit of back and forth around, we call it vote by mail or vote by home. Or vote at home, I should say. But just to be clear, so if you are on election night and you're like, I'm gonna vote at 7:55, and you go and you walk over to a mailbox and you put it in there, even if it has a stamp, it will not get counted. So it's really important to understand that what counts is when it is postmarked. So when the stamp is canceled, which means the best way to vote is to either use one of our secure drop boxes. So there's one right out here, very convenient. West High, Diamond, there's 18 locations all over the city, the library in Midtown. So most folks are already used to using those. But just to say that is the way, and that is the easiest way to vote. If it comes down to election day and it's just before 8 p.m., they do lock them right at 8. But I'm saying that because I know it's easy to go vote by mail, and that is still an option. But make sure, because what happens is all of the mail gets picked up from the boxes and it goes to actually the airport post office for central processing. And that's when it actually gets canceled, the stamp gets canceled. So I know that's getting in the weeds, but just to really explain, if you want to make sure your ballot is counted, if it does not get postmarked until the day after, they cannot count it. And in fact, that's the #1 reason why some ballots are not counted, because even if someone intended to vote on time, it's not counted. So just to be clear, you could still vote in person. Early voting is open. It started yesterday all the way through election day, except on Easter Sunday, because Easter is this Sunday. So make a plan to vote either in person or use those drop boxes. Or if you do use the mail, walk into the post office and ask them to, do the stamp hand cancel. That's still an option to make sure that it happens that day. So you've heard about what's on the ballot, all those things, but just to make sure for anyone who hasn't voted, and remind your friends to vote no matter what district they're in. So that's the election. Another thing that will be coming up that I don't have specific information about right now, but is important to you all, is our first quarter budget revisions. So there's 2 parts to that. One is we set our budget for the year back in November. So we're in that budget season, or we're in that cycle now. But as we know, things come up after November. We get a little bit better information, how much was spent at the end of the year, whether we have vacancies, those kinds of things. So there's always adjustments that get made to the budget. So it's a revised budget. But the other reason it's important is because after we are done making those revisions, as a side note, I was over at West High School. They're having their multicultural event, which is an amazing event. It was happening tonight. It'll be over by the time this meeting's over. I encourage you to go. So I had all kinds of food samples. It was great. Anyway, so mark your calendars for next April. Anyway, sorry. Okay, so back to the budget. So we set those budget revisions, which makes our budget for the year final. But also, when all that is done, and also after the results of the election, when we see which bonds and tax levies and things like that have passed, anything that affects our budget, when all of that is finalized, that's when we can also basically set our tax levy. So if let's say we vote all the bonds in, they all pass this year, and then that's part of our property taxes, that gets factored into our 2026 budget. That also means that money in theory is available for those projects to start. So it doesn't mean that all projects start, right away. And that's the cycle that works. So after we have set the tax levy, that's when you actually get your tax bill. So that's why you get your assessment in January. We talked a lot about that. And then we don't set the actual rates of tax and mill rates until this process in April. And so that's when the tax bills go out after that. And then of course the assessor's office collects our tax, not the assessor, the treasurer's office collects taxes. So it's a very important part of our process. But I can also share that this year in particular, we know we have costs going up. We know we're just constrained in terms of our budget in general. So I wouldn't expect a lot of major changes to our budget through this process. But we are going to continue having those big conversations about how do we make sure that we have a fully staffed fire department. We have enough folks on the trucks. How do we make sure that we are paying our employees and keeping them around? How do we make sure that we are really dealing with all of these big pressures on our budget, whether it's police, fire, pretty much every department, parks,
how do we make sure that we are accommodating those in the limited budget we have? So you'll see a lot of conversations. You may not see a lot of big changes to the budget, but just to say that is an ongoing process. So I think with that, I'll just see if there's questions.
We have one from Jacob.
So I'm not gonna go hard on this one, but it is a concern for the larger stuff. And Fuchs, I was gonna ask him, but unfortunately ran out of time. So obviously, right now,
A little bit louder, please.
sorry, apologies. 450 people are in shelter that are documented. They have 20, 30 more in this place in the war meeting. And that doesn't include all the ones that are outside right now. So very soon, there's going to be pressure to decompress those shelters and push those people on the streets that currently there's nowhere that these people can go without technically being criminal and sort of driving the problem all around town. And there are other pressures as well. I guess my question, if there is one, and I'm not putting this on you, it's just something food for thought. Where are these people supposed to go? And hopefully, if there's not currently an answer about it, maybe people can start having that discussion. So, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll say just briefly, we know homelessness is a big issue. We have been making progress, and obviously it's still not perfect, right? We know that we don't have enough shelter beds, we don't have enough housing, and we do have a combination of folks who are forced to sleep outside and also folks who choose not to go into these shelters for a lot of reasons. So I think some of the things that we are doing, we've stood up our treatment program, the tiny homes, which will serve not everybody, obviously, but folks who need treatment, and it's a safe place. They can lock their door at night, they can start to work on really stabilizing, and if they're willing to go through that treatment. We have a number of programs in town that have been operating, whether it's shelter, housing, for example, domestic violence, we have shelter and we have housing that they don't really disclose the location of for the folks' safety. So we do have some programs in place, and so it is true that we do not have a place for every single person who does not have housing right now. It is also true that we do not have enough room in our budget to really do that, right? A lot of the reasons we were able to do so much was federal funding. So I think the short answer is we're working on it, and I know that's not going to be a sufficient answer to you, Jamie. But also I think we are challenged because no city is adequately funded to deal with this very complex issue, which is a national issue. As costs go up, evictions go up, all of these other things really put pressure on our first responders and on all of our systems, which we know are inadequate. So we're working on it. That's the best I can say right now. I will say also though, I've been talking with a couple of folks who live next to Minnesota Park. We know that was a huge issue this past summer and fall with the closure of the Chelsea and all of the kind of spillover effects. And that is of course not, there's the public safety issues, there's addiction issues, and there's homelessness, right? There's overlap. They are not all the same thing. But also I have already asked our folks, in APD and elsewhere and outreach workers to really keep an eye on Minnesota Park, because we know that as the weather gets warmer, folks may end up going back there. And we know that it's not really a safe place to be if you're just right next to this highway. And then the neighbors along there have seen a lot of issues as well. So just saying, we know that's going to be potentially a hot spot, hopefully not like it was last year, but continuing to work.
We've got about 4 minutes, so we can entertain a question from Bill.
What happened to all those hotels we bought?
So the Muni actually didn't buy any hotels. We provided some one-time funding. So let's see, the Barrett and the Lakeshore Inn, which is right near where I used to live, those are now housing. And so folks, many of them have vouchers, but many of them are working. And it's run by a private organization that is owned by the Anchorage Affordable Land Trust, which is a separate nonprofit. And that's actually operated by MASH, the same folks who are operating the Alex Hotel. So they don't own the Alex Hotel. We are just renting shelter space in there, essentially.
So who owns the hotels?
The nonprofit has purchased them and is running them basically as low-income housing. So similar.
Did you get back all the money you spent?
I guess if you're purchasing a building and we provided some funding, then I don't know how we would get money back.
So we just threw it away.
I would say if you remember the Barrett Inn about 3 years ago, it was a site of a whole lot of police calls before it became housing. And I would offer that it's probably a more stable property than it is now, and it's in better shape. They did a lot of work to the roof. They did the interior. There's some pretty scary electrical stuff in there.
Seemed to help my taxes.
I
guess another alternative is we don't spend any money on homelessness, and then we get a whole lot of complaints of a whole lot more people outside. So it's kind of
You know, that's a theory that's never been proven yet.
Oh, I can prove that.
Yeah, I think it was the 1970s is really what.
Yeah. And since we do have a second, if we did do the West Acres candidate forum and our very own Jed was the MC and Anna did a fantastic job. Thank you very much for that. So we do have 3 minutes left. Sarah, do you have any questions?
I'm not suggesting we do this. I am information gathering. The tax cap. It's in the charter. Yeah, and to get rid of the tax cap, again, not suggesting, I am information seeking. Is that just a vote of the people? Should we get rid of the tax cap? Or is it more complicated than that?
One is, it is in the charter. Any change to the charter is, takes a vote of the people. So for example, Proposition 10 on your ballots, if you've looked at your ballots, it literally is deleting references to the Anchorage telephone utility. So that is something that if I was just writing a document, I wouldn't send that out to a vote of the people. I would just delete it, right? But because it's a legal document, it's the charter, it does take a vote. So yeah, the answer generally is that. In terms of, is it complicated? I think that's an interesting question. I think I have wondered that as well. And I've also wondered, do we just need to change the formula? Because I think it is a formula. There's some ways that it's working, there's some ways that it's not. So for example, it is a 5-year rolling inflation amount. And so if we have a really big spike in inflation, then it basically means that we aren't able to increase our budget to actually account for that, right? So we're all feeling that basically with our gas bills, right? Our gasoline and natural gas. So we have the same pressures. And then I would say though, the Budget Advisory Commission is actually really interested in kind of doing a deep dive on the tax cap and on some other parts of our budget. So I would expect that they are going to be taking that up. Their meetings are public. Obviously they're during the day, they're all recorded. But I've talked with the chair and he's very interested in that question. How could we change it basically? So I think that conversation will come.
And there was a presentation of our Muni Art budget. Is that available online somewhere? If I wanted to tell my friends.
Yeah, so we did 2 of them in person and then there's one that was recorded on Zoom. So we didn't record people's discussion, but we recorded the presentation. It's on our assembly budget and taxes page. And then if you scroll to the bottom, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. And it's got something about the big picture. So it's got a link to the Zoom recording. And it's also on our Muni YouTube page with all of our other things.
All right, so moving on, the next item is the CIP, which is the Capital Improvement Program or projects. And every year we get an opportunity to weigh in and say, these are the capital improvements that matter to us. And it's a list that we've been working on for a long time. And we were told it wasn't happening this year. So it is live now. And they're asking for our input now. So Sarah has put together a way that we are going to use. So Sarah, would you take 5 minutes to tell us about that?
Absolutely, won't take that long because I talk fast. So yes, originally we weren't putting together this CIP survey because they weren't going to do it. I'm not sure who changed their minds. Someone did, and now it's open. We're really just going to do the same thing we've done for the last 2 or 3 years. And for this upcoming one, and in May, we'll have a vote on what we all decide in a survey that's going to go out this week. We can decide in May if we want to just keep our top five, and then everything else is this is also important, but this is our top 5. Do we want to maneuver around our top 5? Long story short, I'm sending out a survey on Friday. I'm going to send it out via the Spenard Community Council listserv, which you can get to by going to communitycouncils.org/Spenard. At the top right, there's a little green button that says sign up. And then you have the option to sign up for the listservs for any of the community councils, all of the community councils, but you want Spenard, because that's how you're going to get the survey. I'm also going to request they post it on Spenard's page. So in case you don't have email or you don't want to check your email, you can go to the Spenard page and I'll request that they post that on a Friday, right after they send it out via email. It's an easy survey. And you get to give me an opinion, and then I show you the formula that I use to come up with that list, and we'll vote on the list and send it in May. Are there any questions about what the capital improvement program is or anything else I just said?
We've got a minute. Could you tell us 3, 4, 5 things that you know are on the list?
I know that Fish Creek, Daylight and Fish Creek comes up That is generally in the top 5. Pedestrian improvements along Minnesota generally pop up on there. There is pedestrian improvements along International by Northwood, making that continuous. I believe the Fish Creek Trail shows up repeatedly. So those are some of our top ones. And then also, if your street needs a look, put that in the survey. There's another button. So if your street needs some help, put that on the survey. It at least goes in as like, this also needs to be on somebody's radar.
Everyone here wants to pave the alley between Willow and Doris. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions? No? Okay.
Cool, thank you.
So the next item was going to be a decision item, but that's fine. There was a dishwasher that failed, a computer that failed. It was nobody's fault. So we're gonna do a quick preview and we will actually have a resolution to vote on next month. So it's April now, we'll do that in May. There's plenty of time. So introducing Peggy.
Okay, thank you. So, there's a resolution that, Zach Fields, a representative from downtown, is introducing. It's House Bill 282. And what it is, it's trying to, deal with something that's been on the books, that the state is now controlling the way that communities can, if they want to have something other than police officers, and that's one of the reasons I brought it up with Lieutenant Fuchs, is there's a real problem with, we have a high number of deaths, mostly of pedestrians and bicyclists. We had 15 last year. We have 330,000 people in Anchorage and had 15 deaths. Portland, Oregon has 660,000 people, exactly twice, and they had 15 deaths. So the thing is, we're really outpacing for our community size. And I think a lot of people in this room, from votes that we've taken on trails, trying to improve trails, trying to improve ways for people to get around that are not non-motorized. It's so dangerous here anyway. We have a lot of obstructions with ice and snow in the wintertime. And then we just have sometimes people being hit, like in Mountain View, a woman who was on a sidewalk, who was hit killed on the sidewalk. So we have a lot of speeding and red light running in this town. And from what Lieutenant Fuchs was saying, we don't have people out there that are stopping these people. And a lot of times, people that run red lights is not a one-time thing. It's kind of a constant. So Zach Fields has introduced this bill that is now in transportation. And what they're doing is that they're trying to address the fatality situation because they're hearing this from all over the city of people being concerned about this high death rate. And so what it would do, it would give the ability, just the ability, they're not telling anybody what to do. But what they're doing is they're going to give local communities the ability to put in track the signals that they can do for like red light runners and speeders. And it would be automatic. And if everybody remembers back in the 90s, there was a lot of outcry because there was a private firm that was ticketing people and there was a hue and cry, and so they just said, we'll never do that again. The problem is when you go for absolutes like that, then you have a situation where you have an overtaxed police department that really doesn't have the time and resources to be out there doing traffic watch so that they can tag these people. So what it would do is it would give a local community the ability, if they so choose, to put in lights, or I'm trying to know what they call this, but what they would do is they'd have the ability to have the cameras, the safety cameras. And so it would be all around the state. People can opt out. They can decide for their own communities. But the thing is, this is a statewide control. What he's asking is that it really should be a local issue. So because we have a long history of supporting, trying to make it safer for people. I'm going to bring a resolution next month asking for the council to pass this resolution in favor of Representative Bill's his sponsor statement, his bill that he's putting through. Are there any questions?
All right, so this is an incredibly contentious issue, and we're all gonna make a promise to be nice when we ask questions about this. We know this has been done before, we know it has been a failure before, we all know these things. We also know that it's 36 years later after it was done last time, there's better technology. So let's ask the questions, but let's keep it questions that are conducive to being persuasive and good questions.
Okay, so this is more dialogue. So the gentleman, the attorney who brought that lawsuit was Bradley Weiler, I knew him. But the main issue was sort of these red light cameras and things in general. That sometimes people end up speeding more to get through the light quicker, and then it causes other accidents as well. But that is the main concern right now. So what's happening? The tremendous amount of traffic fatalities recently, and so it's driven by multiple things. Part of it is drivers that are not paying attention. They're not paying attention to people are going around. There are issues with the homeless situation where people are just walking wherever they can, but it's usually driven by people that are impaired on both sides, whether it's the drivers or the people that are on the street. They're just not paying attention. Some of them have mental issues as well. And so that's there, but there's also the other issue with the sidewalks. So the sidewalks have not been cleared in many parts of town this year, and the people, they're walking wherever they can, and I've done it too. And in my case, my general concern about getting people impressed or more authority is that then you have certain individuals that are using it not for the intent of actually public safety, but for a stop and frisk type thing, which is what happened in the middle of Mountain when I got excited with the legally walking in the roadway, literally 2 blocks into it, or 2 blocks into a residential neighborhood at 11:30 p.m. at night. They were running an operation basically. It's not for safety, it's to stop individuals that are probable cause for any particular reason, getting more information. And then some of them were just citing people randomly, and in the case where it happened to me and many others, you're doing a popular section of town that people could not pay for. And so I would say, be careful possibly about what you're thinking and what the potential consequences are. But yeah, the issue is that if you have impaired people, they're making bad decisions, and how can you correct that? Alexa Dobson, she seems to think that, work the sidewalk issue, clear that first. And then obviously go after the drivers because they're the ones that are driving things that kill people. So
Resolution 2602 of the Spenard Community Council was written by our own Jet here, and it said we should clear those sidewalks.
Yeah.
So we've been doing something. All right, so this hand over here came up first, and we'll get Jason next. What's your name here?
Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. My question is, I am concerned because APD already has a lot of surveillance equipment that they just got. So could you define local control, like the communities deciding? That was the words that were used. Do you know who is the community? Who is the local who's getting to decide whether or not these go on? So it would be the whole municipality.
Right, in other words, like Bethel can do theirs, or Juneau can do theirs, or Fairbanks, but this would be, Anchorage would be considered the local community.
Okay, thank you.
And Jason.
Yeah, it's naturally apprehensive to added surveillance in public. I'm just kind of curious as to what kind of metrics we've seen elsewhere. I know there'll be an increase in tickets, but is there a decrease in traffic fatalities from other reason? Maybe you don't know that. Maybe feel something.
Well, I guess I have a computer that broke on me. I did hear testimony. Actually, Lindsay Hyde, who's a member of community council, a very active person in all these issues, gave very good testimony. And also a gentleman who had, he either lived, his mother lived in, I think it was Bellingham or something. And they put in something like this, and his mother was very unhappy about it, but the fatalities did go down. They did notice, and she said she felt safer. She was an older woman, and she said, I didn't like it at first, but the same reason you're talking about. But she said, you know, I felt safer driving around because I didn't, I mean, like when I drive, like I said, I just had that happen when I was talking to Lieutenant Fuchs. I was pulling out and there was somebody ran the red light. And then I got up to Spenard Road and then somebody ran through and you know, I mean, it's amazing on Spenard, Minnesota, how many people you can kill going through a red light there. But it, you know, the thing is that it's like Jamie said, you know, like you do have the question of people that are on sidewalks and everything that you don't want to be people believe overly surveilled. But what we do know is that vehicles are bigger than they used to be and they're heavier. And if someone's going 25 miles an hour, they're less likely to kill someone. And if you're running a red light, most people aren't running red lights at 15 miles an hour. They're going faster. And so, you know, the idea is if you've got a Ford F-150, you know, your chances of running a red light and killing someone who might be crossing the street are pretty high. So the idea is that, you know, like, you know, we've been trying through all of their different kinds of methods, like, you know, like he was saying, the 311, call people in that, and I have done that. I've called people in that were leaving, stuff like that looked impaired. But the problem is that with a red light runner, they're going so fast that you can't even get their license plate to turn them in. So, you know, this is something that the community can discuss as it comes up, but what he's asking for is the ability for the community discussion to happen. To make, you know, like if we wanted a reality, but it's just removing the state as the overseer of this.
Yeah. Excellent work. Oh, we do have one more question from Phil. We've got a minute. Yeah, if you want to ask a question, Phil.
If it was just gonna be used for safety, I would agree with it, but our assembly is very greedy. And if you put the lights out, they will be used to collect more taxes.
Yeah.
The cameras, they'll be looking at it and it'll become another tax collection device for them.
From people.
And I think that will override the safety.
Let's say this, I knew someone in the 90s who got a ticket going through the school zone at Romig and then complained because they got caught. They didn't say that they didn't do it. They said they got caught and they were so angry about it.
Did they run over anybody? Any children present?
Well, it was right in front of a school. It was when the lights are blinking when the kids are in the area. I don't think we should be taking out kids to prove a point.
I don't think you took out any kids and I don't think any kids have been ran over in the school zone for.
So we had 20 people die in the streets last year.
What's that?
You had almost 20 people, almost 20 pedestrians were killed by cars last year in Anchorage.
And I would suggest that a lot of that is because they were inebriated.
No.
They were totally sober, all of them.
And that's victim blaming, and we're not gonna tolerate that. That's not okay. We're not gonna mock the dead because they were killed by an automobile. That's just not gonna happen today.
Well,
Sarah, do you have a question?
I do. Do we have data on how other cities have done this successfully and have they done it without cameras? And I asked that, I almost asked Lieutenant Fuchs, but I was trying to honor his time. I want to sit by the stop sign in my neighborhood with a hair dryer, right? And just see if I can get people to stop at the four-way stop that's at the school in front of my house. I don't know if that's legal, which is why I haven't done it, because I'm not gonna go. Is there that kind of data where like that kind of experiment works? And then I guess secondarily, if we support this, we're also supporting saying this state shouldn't tell us that we can't, but it doesn't mean that we're automatically implementing it. Like we would still have to either as voters or through assembly ordinance support whatever gets put into place moving forward. Right, I guess bigger question.
So like I said, I'll have to look up which city it was in Washington, but they did this exact thing and they had really good results. Now, as far as not having cameras, but having good results, I will say this, I'm originally from Portland, Oregon. They have very, very, very strong pedestrian rights in Portland. And, you know, you can actually cross the street and not have to cross with a crosswalk. you have a legal right to cross the street, and the police, they've had enforcement long enough that people stop. And that's why they only have 15 fatalities in a city that's twice the size. Now, and when I listen to it, they are working on trying to bring that down too. They are still actively working on it, but it's pretty bad. I didn't realize it was 20. I thought it was 15, but it's pretty bad to have that high of a count because they also have people that are inebriated. They also have people that are homeless. You know, they also have people not paying attention. So, you know, like part of it is enforcement from what Lieutenant Fuchs is saying. Disappointingly, I was hoping with the new graduates of the academy that they might be, that's usually where they start them out, just giving tickets and stuff. But, you know, like if they're not going to be putting somebody on the beat to do this, there's gotta be some, you know, something that we can do to make this better. So I will do some more looking up on other places that do both.
So tune in May, it's gonna be exciting. Invite your friend. All right, so patiently waiting, oh my God, you have about 10 minutes and information topic, we have two Title 21 amendment ordinances, cases 34 and 35, which are scheduled for public hearing, and we have Lucas Bertram here to speak to them. So tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you're gonna tell us and then tell us.
Yeah. All right, I'm, excuse me, Luke Bertram with the MOA Planning Department. We have two assembly ordinances. I'm going to share my screen here. It's very small on the screen, so apologies to everyone who is here in person. That were started with assembly members, and then we brought it into the planning department to kind of fix up the ordinances to be bringing to Planning and Zoning Commission on April 13th for a public hearing. So the first one we have here, which will be PCC case 2026-0034, is really looking to restrict some low job density, low job, high space uses by bringing them from being permitted by right to being conditional uses, so that they do have to go through some more process to discourage them. So this will also be slightly changing the definition of the B3 district, just to clarify some of the wording there. We're just kind of tossing that into make it reflect what the B3 is now, so that it's commercial and mixed uses, talking about vehicular and non-motorized traffic as well, being on primary transportation corridors, so not necessarily arterials, some things like that. And we will have this ordinance in the full packet that will be released before that April 13th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, which I can send that to. Yeah, I'll send that to you when we have that public. So the uses that we are looking at changing from permitted by right in B3 zoning to conditional uses, and I can bring us to the zoning map quick. There is quite a bit of B3 zoning within the Spenard Community Council, mostly here. When we look at this kind of change which screen I'm sharing, please hold on. So we do have quite a bit of B3 around here along the Arctic, Northern Lights in Benson, this.
Can you identify that by color?
Yeah, so it's this, here we go. That part which just got highlighted, just for reference, again, I recognize this is pretty small screen for everyone in the room. This is Minnesota Direct here, right in the middle. Right in the middle, so a lot along the Spenard corridors, all be free from, well, pretty much from the airport to the other end of Spenard. So we do have quite a bit of it in the community council. So going back to that ordinance, we'll be restricting free uses as primary uses from permitted by right to conditional uses. So that'll be parking lots or structures that are 50 plus spaces, self-storage facilities, and storage yards. And with that parking lot or structure, that's like if it's just a parking lot, so not, say, a larger, shopping center or something like that. What is it, Northern Lights Village there that has the large parking lot there between Minnesota and Spenard. So that won't be affected by anything. But say if you just wanted to, if you had a lot and wanted to build a parking garage, then you would have to go through that conditional use process in B3. Yes.
Could you just quickly explain the difference between permitting by right and conditional use? So how does that work out? So currently those B3 properties can do whatever they want.
So
tell me a little more what this specifically is going to work out to.
So currently, you do not have to go through any planning process to do any of these three things in the B3 district. So you can go straight to the building permit or to the parking lot right of way permits without needing anything from planning. So by making it a conditional use, it will need to go to Planning and Zoning Commission for the public hearing and then going to the assembly to be approved before so that they can get that conditional use before they can go ahead and get those building permits.
Specifically for a parking lot of greater than 50 spaces, a self-storage unit, and some other kind of stuff.
Yeah, storage area. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So that's what we're doing with this ordinance. And if we have any other questions on this one.
So,
yeah.
So who would get notice?
So since this is a change to Title 21, we don't do the noticing necessarily. So this is kind of our outreach going to community councils.
I mean, if it passed, if someone was applying for the parking garage, who would get notice?
So it is, I need to confirm the exact radius here. Yeah, so another thing with the conditional use permit, reminding me, is that there is the notice before the public hearing. So the community council gets noticed as well as property owners within I think it's 500 feet. Let me confirm quick.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
So it is 10 houses. 3 houses.
It's changing, it just changed right now. These things that they're just like. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, when you said you spell this.
Okay. So yeah, within 500 feet of the outer boundary of that parcel.
Ludicrous.
Or well,
That's ludicrous.
It is.
That's 5 houses.
or owners in the 50 parcels nearest to the outer boundary of the land, subject to the application, whichever is the greater number of parcels. So
You said 50, 50?
yes, parcels nearest to the outer boundary. So in Spenard, where we have a lot of the smaller lots, it's likely going to be those 50 closest. 50 closest property, yeah. Okay.
In that.
Yeah, from the outside boundaries.
Does it include community councils?
Yes, community councils do, yeah, go to.
Community councils.
Oh, right, we do send it out with our, agency review, so when we send, notice when we get the case, or when we get the case, we send it to our other municipal agencies or to DOT or whoever, but we also send it to, community council, and if it's on a boundary, so say it's, in Midtown, but it's right on the Arctic, then Spenard would be within the notice boundary, so it would come to this community council as well. Okay.
Right, question.
About this ordinance, I would love to take any questions before going up. Yes.
I have a statement. So for the last 37 years, Spenard has been fighting with community, planning and zoning in the assembly, where if you go up Spenard Road from, like International and all those places that are now car lots or storage lots, used to be residential, which is what we're fighting for, is residential housing. It's right there on the bus system. And I would like to see this because that's what would happen is they would switch it over. They would make it R4, they would switch it to B3, and then somebody would put in, that's what they put next to Gwynny's, that's what they put next to Writer's Block. You just go up and down the road and all these places that now have car lots. What I would like to see is that it's not just a conditional use, but it's something that is strongly dissuaded from, because we don't need more car lots. And right now we're working on the Spenard Porter plan, which poor Margaret's waiting to talk about. But the thing is that that's the whole thing, is we want the housing next to where people are transiting, and watching these places go to car lots and rental lots and everything is so frustrating. So I want to know that I hope our assembly person's hearing that they're strongly dissuaded from these parking lots and stuff, because it's a poor use of land.
And it is pretty much the primary intent of this ordinance. Did you send this one to us, or was the other one?
Yeah, I was part of the other one, but this one was originally sponsored by Felix Rivera, and it was just dealing with self-storage. And so I appreciate that they expanded the similar types of uses that are essentially industrial uses. People point to the Jewel Lake and Diamond, that U-Haul thing, that's supposed to be a town center. So it doesn't go very town centering with just like a storage place. So so conditional use basically is one of the strongest processes in our code. And same reason why we did that with data centers, was to say if this is going to get built, it needs to go through this process.
Good. All right. Yep. Anyone else on this one? Otherwise, I can move on to the other ordinance.
3-5.
3-5. All right. So the next ordinance we have, see if it'll just switch over on the screen. It does. Okay. So this one is amending the zoning code to allow shop houses again, this is within the B3 zoning district. So to have a potentially single family house with a garage that's larger than normally permitted. So this wouldn't be in residential zones or anything else. This isn't gonna happen like right on the middle of your unmarked or like local unmarked street. So this one will allow pretty much how we're doing is we're allowing single family homes on or in the B3 district, which is currently not permitted, so that they can do it as sort of a mixed use of a single family home and a commercial garage for that space that they may want. In the process, we're also allowing single family homes, duplexes within commercial zoning districts, and sorry, this was all commercial zoning districts actually, so B1A, B1B, B3, and RO. So we will be allowing those on, on the Spenard corridor as well. And this also changes the definition of mixed use, which currently in code says 2 or more dwellings for it to be mixed use. So say if you wanted to have like a shop and a single apartment, our code does not allow that currently. So we're just kind of fixing that oversight to allow that to happen as well if a property owner would wish to do so. Yes.
When you say shop, we hear auto mechanic garage, but what you mean is like it could be a retail store, a soap making facility, a marijuana shop, or anything that just has a second phone.
It does all of those. So it could be auto mechanic shop subject to those requirements that an auto mechanic shop would have to follow already. But since this is touching on mixed use to allow one dwelling and one commercial use or so on, it would allow, say, an apartment and all the uses you were listing there. I think you're
by commercial use, you're not including light industrial garage facilities, are you? Or because there are some variances between commercial use and light industrial shop.
Yeah, so this would be the uses that are already allowed in the commercial zoning districts and B1A, B1B, B3, RO. So it would be the lighter garage. It wouldn't be like, big full storage.
Can I ask her?
Yeah. Yes.
Briefly, so this is an ordinance that I was working on. So just to give an example, for a shop house or a shouse, if you've heard that term, there's also barn dough, a barn and a conduit. Anyway, there's all these, basically the whole idea is you have a small living unit with a bigger garage, and it's a very Alaskan truck bro thing, right? Like if you have a big truck, you have a boat, something where you just need a larger space because generally the garage just has to be much smaller than the house. And so in places like B3 anyway, where there's a lot of, mixed uses, and in places like Valdez, for example, they legalized this because a number of their folks were saying, I would love a place to park my boat. I don't need a lot of living space. And so our code is very geared toward having a bigger house and a small garage. So when they say shop, it's really more like your own workshop, like your personal, but also certain commercial uses. But yeah, not like a big industrial. Yeah.
But you can't even build that now. You can't build a big garage with living space. It's
on down from Blue Market, though, there's something just sounds just like that.
I don't know. There's also the garage condo.
Yes.
Those are more like commercial spaces that you're buying as a condo, but it doesn't have a living space.
You're not allowed to live in that.
Yeah.
The one over your car can live in there. Well, I mean, the one that I say is on the garages and it's not. That's not true.
So,
And I don't know if this is classically B3 or not, but what I'm wondering is, does this also, does building living above the store, which used to be the thing, does that fit into this B3 designation or is that something different?
So it was kind of a secondary thing to this that we are, looking to allow that, of having like that one unit above it. So it's kind of, killing two birds with one stone here of the shop houses, the garage condos to, like living above the historic.
Yes. Okay, so when are these coming together? For us to have a discussion about it? Or?
Yes, so we're finishing up our staff packets this week. We should hopefully have them out very soon by next week. We'll be getting those published next week. And then the week after it is going to be going to Planning and Zoning Commission for public hearing. Then after Planning and Zoning Commission makes their recommendation, then it gets introduced to the assembly later, and then after it's introduced to the assembly, then at least 21 days later at the next meeting after that, then they can put that on the agenda and make a vote.
Anything else before we move on?
So the public hearing is the 13th.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thanks. We're moving on. I don't have anything else, so
Okay. So thank you for coming and speaking on a very complicated topic. He read it to me over the phone and I was like, you're doing what? I did a lot of research for it for today. Sarah?
I have a thing to add to that. If you are interested in getting all of those planning notices and you live for this, the Federation of Community Councils will actually send them to you if you sign up for that mailing list. Do you have something to add?
yes, I should have mentioned this earlier, from our planning department, and you can reach it on our website, and I can send a link. When I send out the staff packet, we have a link that you can sign up for a planning department newsletter. We send it out usually every 2 to 3 weeks, just with new updates of projects we have going on. Things like this ordinance, and that'll give you more information on when public hearings are coming up or what is going to happen, what we have.
Excellent. So we were going to hear from Margaret McDonough with the Spenard corridor, but she is out sick. So we are at the end. So Jen has used a random number generator and chosen someone for the door prize. The door prize is a $20 gift card to Hulin, who makes this lovely hoodie. And this hoodie is bespoke. If you look, it has the Spenard Community Council logo on it, right? And you can get this. This patch is $10 from Hulin Designs, and $5 of it comes back to the community council, right? So you don't even have to buy this pouch. Half of the gift card will cover the pouch. So patch, I guess we call it. Jedediah used technology to come up with the winner, and the winner is Christine Dietrich. Here today. All right, so our next meeting is May 6th. We will hear from Margaret, and we will post the agenda for that 1 week prior to the next meeting, and give everybody will help us clean it up. We can get out of here before 9 o'clock. And, we have accomplished all items on the agenda. Zero adjourned. Yes.
Thanks, everybody online.